I am with the daughter of Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Natty Neidhart. Natty, what was it like growing up in that Hart culture?
Well, I get that question a lot, actually, and I find that every time I have to answer it, it always changes a little bit because, it's just kind of, you have to roll with the punches in this business. But as far as growing up in the business, I think I've seen a lot, and I've come to realize that wrestling's not what everybody thinks it is. Like, one of the big things that people ask me all the time, even when I was a kid, I was asked a lot about, is wrestling real or is wrestling fake? And now that I'm a part of this business, and since I've grown up in this business, this is probably the most real form of action that I've ever been involved with. And my dad was a football player, and I mean, you don't ask a wrestler if it's fake because I've just seen how real this business actually is, and like how the trials and triumphs of, this sport actually, they take their tolls on people. And I feel very proud to have grown up in this business, but I also am very aware, my eyes are wide open, to the nature of this business, so to speak. So
your second year here at the Ballpark Brawl, you faced Teddy Hart last year in the Naturals Finals. He defeated you. Bret Hart was there at ringside. You recently had a dark match with Teddy Hart in Calgary. Talk a little bit about that.
First of all, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be back here. Secondly, my dark match with Teddy Hart sort of came up unexpected out of the blue, and I came out victorious, unlike last year when Teddy got the upper hand and beat me at last year's Ballpark Brawl. So, how
did you start wrestling?
I actually started wrestling about 4 years ago when I was 18 years old. It's kind of a funny story because my grandfather, I know everybody's familiar with the Hart Dungeon and the big Hart House in Calgary. Well, every summer we set up about 5 wrestling rings outside in our lawn. And of course we always have the dungeon down there. And we just were fooling around one day. I was fooling around with my cousins Harry and Ted, and I just started doing stuff that I liked, and all of a sudden I started doing a little bit of amateur wrestling, and I just started to get a taste for it. And then, I don't know, I just started becoming more involved in it. It's kind of like a drug. Like, it's, you get hooked. Like, you're almost like, you start doing one thing and you have your first match and you just love the adrenaline of it. And next thing you know, you're going to Japan and going to England and going to Buffalo to do this, the Ballpark Brawl. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to quit even if I wanted to. So,
what kind of feedback did you get from the match?
I got a lot of good feedback. A lot of the guys said that they saw a huge improvement from my work, before and then after going and doing my tours with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that's good. I know I'm working hard and getting some results.
You talk about Japan. You've had some successful tours over there. Compare the wrestling in Japan with the women wrestling to stateside here in the WWE.
I went to Japan for my very first time this year, and I was there for about 2 months, and it was just an unbelievable experience. I never knew that women could move like that, could, work like that. I mean, these women, some of them were submission-style fighters. One of the girls I worked with, her name was Mariko Yoshida. She trained with the Gracie family, and she's like a submission-style fighter. I worked with Kyoko Inoue, and I worked with these, some of the names you might not recognize, but like Manami Toyota, and these women are just phenomenal, and they make you like I said, that same thing about wrestling being real or fake. Growing up as a kid, I was always asked that, and it was like, my dad was very offended. It was very offensive to a wrestler because they know how real it is. And I go over there, and these women, they are not playing around. They're the nicest people you meet outside the ring, but when you're in the ring, it's real. And like I said, I've never been handled like that before. In North America, the style is a little bit different. I would say maybe the wrestlers are just a bit more considerate with each other, and it's not about so much of being considerate, but these women, they're all business. They're all, there's no pleasure in the ring, and it's just like pretty much, pedal to the metal. You get in there and you move, and if you can't move, you get hurt and you're out. And if you can't cut it, you're done. So to put it mildly, it separates the boys from the men. So.
Talk about New Japan. Last year I interviewed you. You talked about possibly going there, and this year you fulfilled that dream. You went over there. You were under the guidance of Masachiro Chono. Talk a little bit about your tour over in Japan.
Well, it was certainly a dream come true. It was my very first trip in January of 2005. Unfortunately, it was cut short due to a fractured fourth metacarpal. But I came back in June for the juniors tour, and I'm going back September now.
What did you take from that tour the most as far as like experience and skills? What did you learn over there from Chono?
I learned a lot of things in and out of the ring from Chono. There's just so much stuff you can learn from a guy like him, or even some of the older veterans like Saito, and there's Goto, all the other guys, Tenzan. Certainly, a really great experience, and I'm glad to be in New Japan, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of Black New Japan as well.
Recently, Bret Hart working things out with WWE and Vince McMahon. What's the general feeling among the Hart family about Bret Hart reconciling with WWE?
Actually, I've been visiting Bret a lot lately. Talking to him about all sorts of things, just because, if I have questions about wrestling, I always talk to my dad or Bret about it, because, who else can I get advice from that they can give me? So I'm really happy for Bret, and I think right now Bret is probably the happiest I've seen him in a long time. People sometimes forget, they forget what Bret has been through with losing my grandparents, losing my Uncle Davy Boy, losing my Uncle Owen, not to mention whatever happened with Survivor Series, which, I know it's just a match, and but it was very traumatic for Bret, because he and Vince McMahon had a relationship, he always considered Vince McMahon to be sort of a father figure. So he had a string of events that were very, very traumatizing to him, and that's a lot to handle, not to mention that he had a life-threatening concussion, which now he's still got fluid around his brain, and he's still dealing with that every day. So for him to be at a point in his life where he can just say, you know what, it's time for me to live my life, enjoy it, live and let live, so to speak, and just move on. And that's the thing with Vince McMahon, is that I believe that Vince McMahon has always had a very strong, incredible relationship with our family, and the best thing that could have happened was for Bret to have reconciled with him, because I know that Bret, his love and his passion is in wrestling, and for him to not have been able to, say goodbye properly, this DVD and this reconciliation with Vince McMahon, it's going to be it's a sense of closure for Bret, and he'll be able to really say goodbye to his fans. His legacy can live on, and I guess he'll triumph and go down in the sport as one of the greatest of all time. And I truly believe that he is the greatest of all time.
You talk about influence. Chris Benoit has had a big influence on your career, giving you good advice, following your career along. Talk about a little bit about Chris Benoit and his influence on you.
Well, I'm good friends with Chris Benoit, and he was the guy, I told him, I said, I got an opportunity to possibly go to New Japan last year. He said, if you can go there, go there first. WWE, you can always come there. There's always time. Go to New Japan first. You'll get a hell of an experience to be working with some of the best guys in the world.
What does the future hold for third-generation stars like yourself and Harry Smith?
Well, I think that the Hart Foundation, meaning Owen Hart, Brian Pillman, Davey Boy Smith, Bret Hart, they left. We have very, very big shoes to fill. You look at my grandfather, Stu Hart, amateur wrestling champion of Canada, just a legacy in himself, and those are even bigger shoes to fill. And then you look at Harry Smith, myself, my cousins, TJ Wilson, who's very, very close to our family, and you think, we have very big shoes to fill, but we are coming up in our own right. We're working with New Japan. We're working with a trainer in Calgary by the name of Tokyo Joe. He's probably one of the best trainers, hands down, in the world. And you know what? The sky is the limit for us, because we believe in wrestling, we believe in our futures, and most importantly, we believe in the Hart family. So I think that strength and that, that legacy is going to be what keeps us going. And I don't know. I don't think there's anything that can burn out our fire. So I think that the third-generation Hart family members will reign victorious, so to speak.
Natty, thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I know you're going to have a great career in the wrestling business, and I look forward to seeing you in more matches here at Ballpark Brawl.
It's my pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
TJ Wilson's here also, part of the Stampede Bulldogs. What's it like having your tag team partner here at Ballpark Brawl?
It's great. Anytime I can travel with Natty or TJ, TJ's not my cousin, but basically my family. It's a great experience, and I'm not sure if I'll get the chance to team with TJ, but if I do, all the better. But it's always great to have him along.
Harry, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Good luck going back to Japan in September, and good luck today here at the Brawl.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.